What's up, everybody? Welcome to ETA 5 Minutes. One of the major fights that had a lasting impact on Gary's future was the incorporation of Merrillville. The Merrillville fight began with the new freedom of movement that blacks enjoyed inside of the city. Even up to Hatcher's election, there were certain neighborhoods in Gary that were largely free from blacks. These neighborhoods were almost 98 to 99% white and contained many nice homes and schools. Blacks were largely regulated to the Midtown section of Gary, encompassing an area only 7 square miles of a city that was at least 70 square miles. In a 1960 census, there were only 3 blacks living in Glen Park, a neighborhood that had over 30,000 people living there. There were only 6 blacks living in Miller, a neighborhood that had 5,000 residents. Midtown Gary contained 64,000 blacks, 93% of Gary's entire black population. The number slightly improved by the mid-60s after Hatcher and Mayor Cat signed a civil rights housing bill in Gary. However, a slow trickle of whites were beginning to leave. After Hatcher's election, Gary's white population plummeted sharply. Blacks demanded to have access to cleaner and nicer parts of town, and that meant moving into affluent white exclusive neighborhoods. White Gary residents bucked at Hatcher's open housing bill, showing up at city council meetings jeering and yelling racial slurs at blacks in attendance. Hatcher brought the bill up 6 times before it was finally adopted by the city. This did not sit well with Gary's whites. Almost immediately, Gary's white flight situation accelerated. In 1969, just 1 year into Hatcher's first term, Indiana state legislators, including a man by the name of Pt.2, introduced a series of state law reforms designed to eliminate the 5-mile new city incorporation buffer zone rule from all second-class Indiana cities, which affected cities the size of Gary in particular. Gary's 5-mile buffer zone was suddenly in danger of being eliminated. Just for reference, Merrillville sat 2 miles outside of Gary's city limits, which placed Merrillville inside of the buffer zone, which prevented Merrillville from incorporating. The dopest reforms were finally adopted in 1971. Thousands of white Gary residents left or were making immediate plans to leave Gary at once for the farmland to the south. Suddenly, unincorporated Merrillville, which was mostly farmland, was in position to become its own town. Pt.2, called the father of Merrillville, himself stated, quote, "Merrillville did not have enough territory to build a town on if that 3-mile buffer zone existed. So if we knocked the buffer zone down, we could get right up to the border with Gary." End quote. Merrillville incorporated immediately in 1971 with its border touching right against Gary. Dobis stated that he was simply giving people what they wanted. Whites were moving from Gary, Hammond, East Chicago, and Whiting, making major financial investments in unincorporated Merrillville. These investments suddenly made Merrillville an economic force out of the blue. The town experienced an unnaturally fast, rapid growth period. New homes were erected on cheap property. New retail opened up. If Gary's fleeing residents weren't bad enough, the national economy changed, decimating the steel industry. Thousands were laid off region-wide. This was a knockout punch for Gary, whose already depleted tax base was once again cut by residents who were suddenly unemployed. As Merrillville breathed new life, Gary neared cardiac arrest. Its stores either moved or just outright closed. Its doctors and lawyers closed and moved to Merrillville or other communities. In fact, most of Gary's entire business district, totaling up to about 100 businesses, closed and moved to Merrillville. By 1979, Sears, JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, Goldblatt's, and other major retailers had shut down their Gary stores and reopened in Merrillville. Its white residents packed up and left, selling their homes cheap from insistence by real estate agents, some which used scare tactics to spook whites out of Gary and sell their homes for half their value to blacks. Those who didn't sell just boarded up their homes and left. The incorporation of Merrillville at its core was supposed to be a political scare tactic. The loss of whites and the loss of Gary's economic might was supposed to knock Hatcher out of office and pave the way for white power to come riding back into town, the same town that they themselves abandoned, yet that never happened. And finally, that fight ended up becoming impossible for Richard Hatcher. In the next video, we will talk about the original concept for Metrolake itself, talk about what was its purpose, who came up with it, and why it failed. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.